Hello, everybody, and thank you so much. Welcome to the Krista and Ed show. Today, we have a very special guest. His name is Justin Stevens, and he is, he's here. So I'm going to...
Hi, Justin.
Hey, guys. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So Justin actually has a family business, which is very cool and interesting because Ed and I are now embarking on a family business as well together instead of working our own separate businesses.
Yep.
And it's called the Sandler Training, and they have a franchise, and it's very interesting because it sounds like you have been involved since you were 13 years old was the first time you went to Sandler Training, which is actually very impressive because we have teenagers in the house and I don't think I'd be able to get one.
They're not even trainable.
They're not even trainable.
So maybe we'll send them down your way. And just before we start, I have to tell you, Boise, Idaho, we were there a couple weeks ago and it was, what a beautiful city. Like my wife and I were having coffee downtown. She's like, yeah, I could live here. I think I could do it.
Yeah. And just so you know, while we're doing that, I'm jumping off topic again, but we have a squirrel in our office so that this is our communication. So when he gets off topic, I usually just show this to him so we don't have to fight.
Or if she gets off topic, I'll pull out the squirrel for her. Okay. So anyways, the squirrel is
okay. So and you're also a father, and you have some children, and you also say that your biggest sale was actually closing your wife, Emily. So that's very interesting. I think Ed probably has a similar story, but
hard sell.
I'm going to let you go ahead and just, introduce yourself, tell us your story, what you do, and give us the background.
Sure. Thank you guys again so much for having me on. I guess to begin my story, I was 13, and 13, I'm in 8th grade. We lived an hour outside of Boise, and every day we drive an hour into town, an hour back, and my dad just bought this franchise, Sandler Training. Okay. And so every day we listen to these CDs, right? Because Sandler Training is all about reprogramming your thinking. Mm-hmm. And so every day we're listening, going back and forth. And it's towards the end of the school year, and I said, Dad, what do you do? I don't quite get this. He started out in remodeling, and he owns a remodeling company and had at that time for about 20 years. And now this new thing, this Sandler, has come up. And so after I asked him, he said, well, why don't you come and experience it this summer? So the summer between 8th and 9th grade, 2 hours every week, I had an awesome clip-on tie. I wish I still had it.
Sweet. I had one of those at that age.
Right? So I've got my clip-on tie. I'm in this conference room with 30 to 40 other business owners and sales professionals. And I am so beyond out of place. But I learned a ton. So a couple of things came out of it. One, I learned how to communicate with someone I'm not comfortable or familiar with, which is, as anybody knows, a great skill to have and very hard to learn.
Yeah. Wow. Like you're, at 13, that's awesome. I'm almost 39 and I feel like I'm just learning that now. So really awesome. You're way ahead of the game.
I am very, very blessed. So thank you. So I spent 2 hours every week for 3 months in this training. So my biggest lesson learned from that whole experience is what is the worst that can happen?
Yes.
When you're 13 and you think about, so in my world, I was thinking about, should I ask her to the dance? So awkward.
So really you're relating it back to dating.
For sure. So I'm going through it and I am figuring out, well, really, what is the worst thing that can happen? I guess maybe I wet my pants. Maybe she turns me down. I don't know. But even the worst case that I could come up with in my mind wasn't that bad.
Yes.
And it was a total mind shift. And once I got that through my head, I realized, you know what? Why not try? What's the worst that can happen? And so ever since then, I've been trying stuff and I've been failing a lot. One of our Sandler rules is fail fast, fail often, all new failures.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's great.
And, I do believe that, our minds are such powerful things, right? And the way you think about something, I really don't see failure as well as, something that's bad. Whenever something happens, that maybe isn't successful, that I've done, there's an example we'll talk about another day. My stomach was in knots and seriously like dry heaving probably for 2 weeks, stress. Yeah. But I just kept telling myself, you know what, everything happens for a reason. And I'm going to learn from this. I don't know what it is right now that I'm supposed to learn, but I know, right? I know. And, as time goes on, it's become very apparent. And you have to make mistakes to learn new things. Yeah. You really do. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You do. And it's so sad to see people who aren't willing to risk.
Yeah.
Because if they're not willing to risk, they'll never get the rewards that they deserve.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I'd encourage your listeners to keep in mind is in order to get the results you want, you have to risk something.
Yeah.
You have to risk looking like an idiot in front of a camera. You have to risk, right? You've got to risk something.
Yeah.
And if you aren't willing to risk, you'll never get to that place you want to be. And it's not always just financial. It can be, time is a huge one. And in my opinion, time is way more important than finance, right?
Just tap me on the knee about that. Yeah. I have a problem with that.
Well, I think we all do to some degree, but it's just, time is so important and it's easy to get distracted. And, it's easy also for people, intentionally or not, to pull you in the direction that's not going to, be productive. Right.
Right.
Financial stuff is great. Right. That takes away a lot of, stress of certain things. But once you get to that point, then what? Right. Yeah, you have to have some passion, to keep going forward and be prepared too. I mean, I know that, because we talked a little bit before this and you're one of my people. So,
right.
But, it's like you just, mind over matter. Right.
Yeah.
And people will always be there to drag you down as well. And just be aware of it, especially online too. Right. You can get attacked a little bit easier sometimes. But you know what? That's not where you want to focus. And
it's not worth it.
Yeah,
it's not worth it. It's so easy to get caught up in what someone else thinks. Another one of our rules is your opinion of me is none of my business.
Your opinion of me is none of our business.
Well, when I'm looking for a saying now, I'm going to be messaging you. Great, thank you. Yeah, a lot of people pre-frame their how they perceive themselves so much on how other people communicate what they see.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do? Like, tell me about Sandler training. You go into businesses and...
Sure. So we go into organizations that they know a couple different people that we help. Generally, we're working with a business owner. They may know they have a great team and they know they have a great product, but for some reason, they're just not getting the results that they feel like they should.
Yeah.
We also work with business owners who have a vision of what they want to accomplish, but they don't quite know how to assemble their team to get them there. And we also work with business owners who have built a company and it's going great, but they're getting to the point where they'd like to sell it.
Yes.
And they don't quite know how to do that or how to really prepare their business to be sold. So we come into organizations like that and we focus on the soft skills. So 99% of a business's problems come from people. Either internal employees or external customers.
Yes.
The ideal business is a business where you don't have employees and you don't have customers. You just get paid, right? I haven't found a business like that, but I'm looking.
I've been looking too.
Well, the thing is too, as business owners, we can be the bottleneck sometimes too, right? So recognizing that as well.
Right. And it's so true. Because the skill set that got you where you are today will not get you where you want to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have someone with an outside perspective speaking into your life, working with you, helping you figure out and pull the right solutions out of you, chances are you're going to continue about where you are. You see it all the time with businesses when they hit a plateau.
And they just
they're just flatline. And we believe if you are not growing, you're dying.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so you've got to figure out, if you feel like you hit that flat line, what do I need to change?
Yeah.
And change is a scary word. People hate change.
Yeah.
But it is the most important thing to get comfortable with is being able to change, being able to go out and say, you know what? I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
I need help. I've got to do something different in order to get the results I want. That's why I'm so impressed with you guys. You're taking a leap of faith. You're combining, you're working together to build a business to create the life you want. And that's huge. That it takes a huge leap of faith. And my hat's off.
Yeah, well, it is scary. It definitely is. Yeah. But it's like it just. I always go back to and talk about like there's absolutely no reason why this can't work. We spend our time and energy, and just the people we put 100% into everything that we do. Right. Our family is so important to us. Our kids obviously, but there's younger ones here too, and we're tired doing things the way we've been doing it. So enough is enough.
And it's interesting that you brought that up, where you hit the flat line, like the plateau. And I can attest to that, where you grow, and you have that growth because you've got the right skill sets. And then when you flat line out, you don't identify with that. But what does happen as an entrepreneur is you start to burn out, because you're trying to keep that. And in fact, your ego probably is a bit involved too, where you want to grow, but you're flat because you've tapped out. And then what happens is a couple years go by, and then you're like, I am tired.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
I'm exhausted with this,
Then you need ring lights so the bags are hidden in your cameras. We look a little different in person, just so you know, when we do.
I don't believe that at all. You guys are young and vibrant. I
love it. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't mean to jump off topic here. It's not really off topic. It's still on topic, but I know you said this is a family business. I'm curious about your wife. Does she work at Sandler as well, or what is she, how is she involved?
Great question. I would say she is the hardest worker I know. She is a stay-at-home mom, and if anybody would like to argue that point, I would be happy to hit you in the head with a shovel because you're.
Oh
She works.
I love this guy.
I know.
So hard, and it is because she works so hard that I get to focus
Yes.
on my business.
Yes.
And I don't have to worry about the kids. Again, I've said it before. I am so blessed. I get to go home, spend the evenings with the kids, and be a part of their life.
Yeah.
But in the morning, I get to come here and work in peace and do grown-up things. She doesn't get that. And my hat's off to her and every stay-at-home mom listening. My hat's off to you too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. I actually worked in the corporate world in the utility industry for 15 years.
Oh my
and
gosh.
When we had Jax, my youngest, is when I decided to stay home. Right. So I've been home for like 4 years, and I started my online boutique actually from home because I was like, oh, I'm independent and I just have ideas and I want to do something, right? And it evolved into a business, because I knew I needed something for myself, but I was so torn about wanting to be home with my kids. It's hard to choose between your career and your kids. So, and that in itself is a lot to juggle, but and now and that's why I wanted to bring that into the podcast too, because I just find the dynamic so interesting. Because even being on the other side, before I even started Dear Scarlet, or I don't even know if I really considered it a business. At first it was like a hobby for me, right?
Right. Something to do.
Right. I was on the other side, frustrated with him if he wasn't home at supper time, or, wasn't answering the call when I called. And I'd be like, oh my God, what if I had run out of gas? You wouldn't care about me, all those kind of things. So I wanted to, have a place to also voice and talk about, those real dynamics too, because it does happen. Right. And
how do you juggle and balance that? Because obviously you guys have this arrangement, not everybody as an entrepreneur or a family business is able to juggle that where it's defined. Like I have a friend who's, very defined, like he does all the work and he works massive amount of hours. He's like a heavy duty technician that travels, the province. And I'm sometimes dumbfounded because his wife has those kids for, his kids and are raising them and busy.
I bet you she drinks wine.
Yeah, she might drink some wine. I don't know. But how do you juggle that with Emily?
Great question. I would say it comes down to when I am there, I try to be as present as physically possible.
Yes.
So for example, the last couple of days I've been trying to convince Emily she needs to find a yoga studio. And as soon as I get home, go do yoga, get out. So right now our kids are 5, 3, and 1.
Yeah.
Which means she has 0 Emily time.
Yes.
Sometimes all 3 of them will nap together. And that's like a miracle and so amazing. But what I try to do to balance that, and again, I am blessed to be in the family I'm in. I'm blessed to be in the business I'm in. I work really hard to create a life that I don't necessarily need to escape from. Don't get me wrong. I want to escape from it, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to January. I hope to see you guys on the cruise ship.
Yes, we will be there with our kids.
Excellent.
Are you bringing your kids?
No, I'm leaving them with my parents.
Okay, wait.
We've had this debate.
Maybe we are bringing the kids. We'll see. No.
Would you bring all 4 of them?
I think 3 maybe.
3 maybe. I'd leave them. So we did. Ironically, this year we did a cruise very similar with our clients, and we brought the kids. And having a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old on a cruise ship is not relaxing. Yeah. It's just awful. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but I wouldn't sign up for it.
Just for the record, we definitely will be bringing at least one grandmother.
Okay, much better. But figuring out how can you. So here's one thing we look at Sandler, in Sandler, is you can only control you.
Yes.
You cannot control anything else. So don't worry about what you can't control. Worry about what you can control. So be as present as possible in the time you have. And if like your buddy who's probably gone a lot, when he gets back, I know it's hard depending on the kid's age, right? Because as kids grow up, the difficulty changes.
Yeah.
Right? It's still hard, but it's a different hard. It's no longer changing diapers and
different attention that you need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if he's got young kids, as soon as he gets home, he needs to kick his wife out. Say, go.
I think it's funny in Krista and I's relationship, I do that. I'll boot her out and she'll be like, what, really? I'll be like, go.
I'm such a homebody though. Like, I like to be home.
Go somewhere.
But it's good because he's like literally thrown the keys at me before, especially when the kids were younger, and said like, just go. Like, and I would just be driving around and I'd be like, oh, hey, this is nice. Like,
but I think there's a lot of, people, entrepreneurs that maybe don't see it that way. They're like, I'm in the grind all day, I'm hustling, and I get home and it's like, I just want to watch something on TV and not necessarily try to nurture, their family side and their relationship with their spouse.
I think it goes for, you don't even have to be an entrepreneur to take that advice, which I think is awesome. It's, for employees as well, because, at the end of the day, what really is important, right? So
right.
Oh, I love it.
I saw something on Facebook the other day. It said, you can always make more money. You can never make more memories.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm writing that one down.
You're dropping bombs.
Like drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Got a little repertoire on his hand. He's like,
I had to get my cheat
at this moment.
Oh my God, it's so awesome.
Right?
Yeah, but again, you get the same. I used this example in training today. Jeff Bezos, right? Name's familiar. Jeff Bezos, to him, when in America, an average American spends $1, is like Jeff Bezos spending $88,000. He gets the same 24 hours you do.
Yes.
Right? Yes. There is nothing special about him. He's just learned to leverage his time.
Yeah.
So if you, as an entrepreneur, as a salesperson, as a person in general, if you want to be successful, figure out how can you leverage your time.
Yeah.
And protect your time. Right?
Yep.
Exactly. A lot of people will it's very easy to look at somebody and say they're successful because they're lucky, or, I would imagine there's people who look at you and say, oh, well, it's because of his dad, or, whatever.
Yep.
No. There's so much else that happens on the back end of stuff. And I don't believe that there's luck in success at all. Yeah. It's based on choice and exactly what you just said. we all do have the same amount of time in a day. So what are you doing with yours?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Love it.
And as so, like, thinking about you guys in your new venture, even though you've both run successful businesses in the past, right now you're starting fresh.
Oh, I feel so naked.
You're starting
like really
fresh.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I don't really feel what I mean. Oh my God. Okay.
She's going to turn red.
What I mean is exactly we're completely emptying one cup and starting another one. And
and try to take the good that you've learned from your life experiences and try to weed out so that you're not following pattern of things that you did before, right?
Right.
Which it can be difficult to do. Really, it is.
Incredibly difficult.
Yeah. And kind of lending back to what you said about like protecting your time and being in the business you're in sales and sales training and consulting. I'm sure there's a myriad of people that come along that want to pick your brain. And it's something that I've struggled with, because my wife and I have talked about many times. She's like, you have people that will, pick your brain for 2 or 3 hours. And I feel like I'm trying to give and I get excited and then what ends up happening is, your time is valuable and you're not actually quantifying a value to it and using it up.
Yeah. Completely true. So we call it unpaid consulting, right? Someone's paying for that time. Generally it's your kids. Right?
And your wife.
Significant other. I mean, it's
You're
your
right.
family.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's true.
So you've heard there's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
Yeah.
Right. So here's a good example. We work with a lot of remodeling companies, right? In remodeling, it's common practice not to give a free bid or proposal, right? And so who pays for that bid or proposal? Let's say on average, they take about 30 hours. Who's paying for that? Your current clients are.
Yeah.
Right? So one thing we teach our clients to do, one, you never do a proposal for free. And so here's the words, if you're in a remodeling business, here's the words we recommend using. Have you ever wondered, all these free proposals, who's paying for them? No? So let me put it this way. Whenever someone does something for free, their current clients are the ones who pay for it.
Yeah.
So I would rather charge you for your proposal and design than charge you for all of my future prospects' proposals and designs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does that sound fair to you?
Absolutely.
Right? Please let me pay for just mine. I don't want to pay for all theirs.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, we've got to change the way they think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I really like everything I'm learning from this coaching program we're involved in together. It's all about their beliefs.
Absolutely.
100% of what we do in Sandler is about belief.
Yeah, it sounds
and here's what we believe. You are not qualified to close anyone on anything. The only person qualified to close a piece of business is the buyer. It is your job as a professional salesperson to ask questions, uncover what we call it is pain, uncover their compelling reason to take action.
Yeah.
Once you uncover a compelling reason to take action, then the next step is figure out what is their budget. And can you, one, help solve their pain, two, help solve their pain within their budget, and three, do it in a manner that is consistent with how they make decisions. If you can do that, then let's go to a presentation.
Yeah.
But if you can't, all you're doing is unpaid consulting.
Yeah.
All you're doing, we call it being a professional visitor, right? People hang out with people who won't tell them no.
I've done that. Been there.
It's good. This is a
I
year
had to
of
pull out the
learning.
squirrel because it wasn't happening. I was expecting to pull it out on her. It didn't happen. So
I don't chase squirrels.
Yeah.
So
you put it that way, because really industry, like cross niche, different industries, construction, painting,
bless you.
oh jeepers, virtually any business, logistics, distribution, mechanics, they do a quote, right? Like the process is to do that typically.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to time, right?
Yeah.
And understanding, your worth and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think, for the most part, once you understand that thought process, it makes sense.
Right.
As a business owner, but also as the client or customer.
Yeah.
Right.
No problems,
it's funny.
So.
It's like connecting the dots, because I find like I've, especially through this self-discovery for what Krista and I have been doing and changing, is, scarcity, or when you say no to somebody, the perceived value of you goes up as well. If you're a consultant or a coach or providing services, if it's like when you went to select something and it's really expensive and you're like, wow, I'd love to have that, but it's maybe a little high. And then there was a promotion. You're like, oh my, I'm going to get it. It's that scarcity. It's like, it's perceived value. So by saying, I'm not just going to give you a free quote that I'm going to kind of glance at it and whip something up, and all of my current clients are paying for it, to say you're going to pay for your quote, is adding value, really.
Right.
Perceived value from the customer too.
Right.
Yeah.
And, the other problem with just throwing a quote together is when people throw a quote together, generally they're not as careful as if they were being paid to put a quote together.
Yeah.
And that, I have seen so many projects go awry because they get started and then they're like, oh, by the way, here's another $100,000 that, it wasn't in the quote, but you owe us. Thanks. Right?
Yeah. It's funny you bring that up. Just the other day, I got quotes for where our building is. There was a water main that blew, and so we're getting quotes to do the concrete, and it was like from $3,000 to $80,000. It's like somebody just whipped something up, and we're like, this isn't even apples to apples. It's like the guy didn't even take the time, and it's probably because of exactly that process. It's like it's a law, the law of numbers. If I just keep quoting and quoting and quoting, there is a percentage. It's like throwing stuff up on the wall and seeing what will stick.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's so funny how that all happens. The other thing quoting makes me think about is everybody talks about what price the market will bear. And that is the stupidest way to look at pricing your product I have ever heard of.
It's the quickest way to be,
It's the quickest way to go out of business, because the price the market will bear should not matter to you. What should matter is, what price do I need to sell this at to be profitable? And here's why. If someone buys from you and you are profitable, what's the likelihood that you will be around in 5 years to service that client again? If you give someone the lowest bid, and we call it buying jobs, if you're out there buying business, what's the likelihood that you'll be around in 5 years?
Yeah, it's not very likely. Number one, because people like us are coming to market.
Right.
No, but and I'm a little bit sarcastic sometimes too.
Oh.
But yeah, as soon as you start competing on price, I mean, competition really. Oh, sorry, did I put that in front of the camera? No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I always think of competition, and I find it interesting how people react to businesses. Like, for example, I'm going back to the boutique for me, because when I started doing that, I was like, oh, yay, I'm empowering women to feel good, and I'm going to reach out to other business boutique owners in the city, and we're going to like do this amazing thing. Well, I realized real quickly that people don't want to collaborate. And I was like, I honestly didn't understand this, because I was like, but we're doing the same thing. Like, isn't it more powerful?
Yeah.
Well, I realized, most of the population, and especially business, and I think that's why I love this coaching program and whatnot too, is there's room for everybody here. You know, there's no reason. And then I realized, okay, well, I'm being looked at maybe as a threat because competition.
Right.
I never saw them as competition, and I still don't, because I thought with that attitude, and I hope you're listening. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Jerks.
Maybe I shouldn't say that. No.
What did you just say about?
I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking in general for everybody. Long term, you're just going to be isolating yourself, and you have no choice but then to compete on price.
Right.
That's a dangerous position to put yourself in.
Yeah.
Right?
Usually a race to the bottom.
So,
yeah. No, it's funny you say that. So, Jim, my dad, when he was starting his remodeling company, he won a piece of business from another remodeling company here in Boise. And the owner of that company called him up and said, hey, you left $5,000 on the table. And my dad said, I've never seen $5,000. I don't know what you're talking about. And so his name was Jim Strite, invited my dad to lunch and taught him how to raise his prices. So literally the competition taught Jim his first lesson in raising his prices. And the reason he did that is a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yes.
So you got to remember, this world is so dang big.
It is.
There is more than enough to go around for everyone, time and time again.
Absolutely.
So just keep it in mind.
Oh man, you gave me
another one.
You gave me so many.
These are all going to be like little memes.
Oh, they are.
They're all going to be memes. You just to warn you.
Just as long as you tag me, I'm all right.
Yeah, we'll be tagging you.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So I just wanted to ask you a question. This is something we're going to be asking all of our guests. You can answer it in long form, short form. But what is your superpower? I really believe that everybody has a superpower. I believe we actually all have more than one superpower, which is really cool. But what is yours? What would you say yours is?
I love the question. And I've given a bit of thought to it over the past couple days. And I've come up with two. And the first one for me was pretty easy. On my business card, and I know you can't see that, but for example, that's what a business card looks like, right?
Yeah.
On my business card, it says Justin Stevens VP. Okay. Now, VP stands for very positive. I am a very, very positive person. Yeah. And I believe the world's my oyster, and you know what? I just got to go out and get it. So that's my first superpower. The next superpower I would say I have is persistence. I can be annoyingly persistent. One of my mottos is, you've got my money in your wallet. You've had it long enough, and it's just a matter of time before I get it.
Oh, I love it. So, what do we owe you? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, no, the first one's free. Next one.
Okay. Yeah.
But those are my two superpowers, and you know what? Just harness them.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So another thing we are letting our guests do, if you don't, that's fine. Do you have a question that you are burning to ask one of us or both of us? Like you've been holding on to this all week.
You can ask either. I'm the funny one, so just
okay.
Yeah, ask him to tell you a joke, and we'll settle this right now.
I can't.
I
cannot share on.
Yeah.
Recorded.
Oh man. Let's see. What is so you can answer this or not, but what has been the biggest issue with starting your new business?
Do you want me to answer, or do you want to answer?
No,
that
I'm
one?
sure we have different answers, so go ahead.
I would say communication, like being able to like get on the same page from a communication standpoint.
Picking our roles.
Yeah, picking our roles, definitely. It's because there's all the personal side, right? So it's hard to just step that all away and go, okay, let's work on this, because there's context, right?
Right.
I guess from
for sure
a guy's point of view, I'm like, I would like to just and go, okay, let's do this. And she's like, well, no, this yesterday. Remember?
No. That's not true.
You were breathing.
That's not true. Well, that might be your fear. I can understand that, but do you want my answer now?
Yes, I would like the right answer. Thank you, Krista.
Okay. Well, actually, I don't know. It's interesting, but right now, because he is selling the other business, right? And there's another partner and whatnot involved. For me, I would say it's frustrating, but it's not fair on my part. I need to be more patient, because obviously businesses don't start and grow and then, just collapse and change overnight. But I'm like ready. Like, I'm like, I want to press the gas and I want to go right now. Right. So I sometimes can, get a little frustrated and maybe take it out on him a little bit. Because of that. But I do think that, we're working through that, and it's actually just a very, very small piece. And I think it does, like you said, come down to communication, and we're going to talk these things out, and hopefully our listeners will keep asking us those good questions, and then we'll talk about them more after the show, and we'll sort it out. I don't know. That was a good question.
You're welcome. Communication. Like I said earlier, a business without people and without customers, that's what we need.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
That is so awesome. So, Justin, can you tell us how our listeners can get in touch with you?
Sure. So you can always check us out online. Our website is crossroads.sandler.com. And actually, we're doing a webinar coming up next week. If anybody would like more information specifically on how we help people grow. So it's Wednesday at 3:00 in the afternoon, Mountain Time. If you go to crossroads.sandler.com/boss, that's /BOSS. It'll give you more information about what we're going over. Ideal for business owners, sales for professionals, and people who really want to take control of their life. So I'd welcome anybody to come sit in on our webinar and see a little bit more about Sandler.
That's so awesome. We will be on there listening. So I'm very intrigued on your story and what you do. And Ed mentioned at the beginning, I don't think we had the recording on, but you live in one of the most amazing places in the world. We absolutely fell in love with Boise when we were there. I was like, wow, we need to move here. And he's like, what? One thing at a time. I'm like, no, it's okay. I found our house.
Literally, we're on the plane, and she's like, look at this one. Look at this one. And one thing that I found odd there was there's like no like Subways and McDonald's, and it's like all independent restaurants. It was kind of cool.
And the food was great.
Yeah, the food actually here, yeah, it was pretty cool. So anyways, we want to thank you for coming on our podcast and sharing some, well, you dropped a ton of bombs there. So
yes.
great things to think about. So,
and we look forward to catching up with you again. We would love to have you, in the future as well. So, and meet you in person at the next event. I don't know if you're going to be there in October, but we'll have to come.
Yeah, for sure.
Hang out.
I could not be happier to be a guest on the show. If I can ever help you guys, reach out to me. I'm happy to do so.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.